In Exodus chapter number 20, verse number 12 is the scripture that I want to read to you today. I want you to hear in this moment together. Exodus chapter number 20, verse number 12 says it like this: Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. He says, as you honor your father and mother, your days are extended in the land that he's given you. The land that he had promised them was the promised land. That was their inheritance. That's where they were going. But the Lord said, you're going to be able to enjoy longer what I'm giving you if you will honor your father and mother. Some of you are not able to enjoy what the Lord has given you because you haven't yet learned how to show honor. I knew the amens would get real low, but I got to help you out this morning. I got to help you. And the first commandment with the promise is this: honor your father and mother, that your days would be long. Some of you are thinking right now, man, I'm probably not going to live too much longer. If this is true, I'm not going to make it a long time. But you can't change the past, but you can start where you are right now. And one thing that my mom used to always say to me and to my brothers and sister was that she pulled the Cosby Show, the Dr. Hustable on us. I brought you into this world and I can take you out of this world. And we believed her. And those of you who know my mama, yeah. But it's the mothers in our life that have always helped us make sense of life. It's the mothers in our life. I can remember the mother, my mom. She's glue, and like glue in the family. And for example, when we would be mad at Dad, it would be Mom who would come and say, "Now you know your dad. You know he loves you. She would be the peacemaker." And then at the same time, you knew that she was going to Dad saying, "Now you know Michael, he loves you. You know that." I mean, it's like Mom is the one who's going back and forth trying to make everything right. And what's awesome about this is that it says that honor is the multiplier of life. I think, now my mom will probably watch this service later, so I've got to choose cautiously what I say. But I will say this in all humor because I need her to hear this. I need you to hear this. I learned about bipolar personalities from my mama too. Now, y'all may not know nothing about that, but some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you're sitting there in the living room, and she's tailing you down the road, and she got the belt, just going crazy all over you. And then the phone rings, and she goes over there, "Hello." And I thought, who are you and what are your names? This is crazy. But we learn we learn from our moms, how we can turn stuff off and how we can turn it back on. Who knows what I'm talking about this morning? You learn from your mom how to switch and when to switch. Because you knew you couldn't be crazy in front of everybody all the time. Well, you learn how to switch. You learn how to switch those gears. So it's the honor. I got to come back. But it's the honor that releases the life of God into a situation. So I honor my mom for showing me how to make that switch and understand you can't be crazy all the time. I love what Bill Johnson said. He said it like this. He said, honor is not built on what I need, but honor is built on what I can give. And he said, if I don't learn to give honor to those who deserve it the least, then I will continue to live in an environment without it. If I can't learn how to honor people who deserve it the least, then I will always live in an environment that is lacking honor. You are the initiator of the environment of honor. And we live in a culture and a society that wants to find dirt on everybody and wants to expose everybody and wants to say, hey, let me show you about this skeleton. I guarantee I got skeletons in my closet that I'm glad you don't know about. And I promise you, you got skeletons in your closet that you don't want nobody to know about. We all got some stuff behind us, but it's not what is in our past that matters. What matters, come on now. Come on. What matters is what are we doing with the moment that we have right now? Some of you may say, it would have been real easy to honor my mother if she was there, or if she didn't beat me, or if she didn't abuse me, or if she didn't do this or that. And when we talk about mothers, and this is the time of year when we talk about mothers on Mother's Day and fathers on Father's Day, in a crowd this size, there's people on both sides of the pendulum. There's people who had this awesome mother who was just perfect, who just modeled before them a godly life. And then there's mothers on the other end of the spectrum who wasn't there, who was strung out, who was into whatever. And so when we start talking about mothers, and we get into this like this, all kinds of things start coming up in your mind to say, well, if you had a good mother, okay, I can connect with that. But if you had a bad mother, a bad representation of what a mother should be, resentment starts building up on the inside of you. And you start thinking, well, if I had a good mom, yeah, I could honor her. Well, I want to tell you what, she don't have to be good for you to show honor. She don't have to be perfect. She don't have to have it all together, because if you'll look in the mirror, you'll realize that you're not perfect and you don't have it all together, and you got some struggles too. When you realize that our mothers, I think what T.D. Jakes says is true. I think you don't really understand anything about parenting at all until you get to about 48, 50 years old. And then you start looking back into your life and said, okay, this is why mama told me that. This is why daddy did that. This is why. And it starts making sense. And it's funny how that most of us, when we grew up, we thought, man, when I become an adult, I will never do that to my kids. When my kids want to go to their friend's house, I'm going to always let them go to their friend's house. When they want to spend the night across town with their buddies, I'm going to be the cool one. But then you find yourself in the road. No, you ain't going across the road. You ain't going down. I don't know them people. You start sounding like your mama. You start sounding like your daddy. But it takes some maturity before you get into the place to where you can really start seeing and respecting some of the things that your parents did or didn't do. And I'm not saying you have to honor your dad or honor your mom simply because they did everything right and they had it all together. I want to say that we can honor them, that in spite of their imperfections, they chose to birth you. Come on now. Aren't you glad that your mama chose to birth you? Because you could have been sucked down a tube somewhere and never even existed. But your mama, at least you can give credit for her birthing you onto this planet. She might not have did everything else that you thought needed to be done, but thank God she gave birth to you. Come on now. Glory be to God. So see, you got to find reasons to begin to show honor. So I thought about this. As the word says, life always flows through honor. Proverbs 15:33 says it like this. So before honor is humility. You see, you can't even show somebody else honor until you humble yourself. You see, if you think you're the one who's supposed to be on the pinnacle and everybody's serving you, you will never be able to show honor to somebody else. But when we look at the leadership style of Jesus, it's not about how many people we can get to do stuff for us, but it's how many people's feet are you willing to wash? How many people's feet are you willing to serve? How many lives are you willing to influence? He says in Proverbs 29:23, but the humble in spirit will retain honor. So if it starts with humility, it's also retained with humility. And so I know for me, growing up, my biological mother was out of my life after I was about 2 weeks old. And all growing up in my childhood, I would think, well, maybe there was something wrong with me, the reason why she left. Or maybe there was something, it had to have been my fault because my mom and dad were together until I was born. Then I'm born, and boom, it's done. And she hits the road, and all of these things start going through my mind. But then not the woman who gave birth to me, but the woman who was actually my mother now, who I can call mom. She didn't give birth to me, but she raised me, and she was there all in my life and was there. But it's funny how as a child and even as an adult, we can start looking and examining the lives of other people and why they didn't do what you thought that they should do for you and why they wasn't there for you. And instead of seeing the people that God has placed in your life who is there, you're looking for everybody who wasn't there. And I had to pray, God, forgive me for not seeing the people who love me right here, right now. Forgive me for mourning over those who have exited my life. And the Lord had to speak something to me. He said, Michael, your future is not about what has exited your life or who has exited your life, but it's about who is in your life right here, right now. It's not about who's left. Quit making it about this victim mentality, about the people who have left you and the people who have abandoned you and the people who have come against you and the people who have betrayed you, and take an inventory in your life right now and see who God has put in it right now and start showing honor and start celebrating them. Come on and give God some praise. Woo! Hallelujah. So we see in the book of Exodus, chapter number 2, one of the most profound stories of the birth. It's the birth of Moses. And here it was in a time to where there was a decree from the government that all of the kids, all of the male kids, be killed. As they were born, killed. Sounds like a lot what's going on today, don't it? But we call it choice today. Oh, preacher, you're going to get political. I just want to preach what the kingdom is about. And we're for life. And we celebrate the sanctity of life. And every child has a voice. Every child. And I know there's all kinds of laws trying to be passed right now, even in California, that after a baby is born, up to 7 days and now up to 30 days after the baby's born, if you decide you don't want it to, then you can go ahead and leave it and you can do whatever you want and you ain't going to be charged. But I want to tell you what, when culture and society gets to a place to where they start devaluing the lives of innocent children who have no voice, I believe we are entering in a time to where the people of God have to arise to give a voice to those who have no voice. Giving a voice to those who have no voice. Give a voice to those who have no voice. And here was a time where all of the male children were being killed as soon as they were born. But Moses' mother did something spectacular. She was partnered with a couple of midwives. And with those midwives, when Moses was born, the midwives, along with the mother, valued the life of Moses so much that they said, we're not going to keep the law to preserve this child. We're going to break some rules. I'm not telling you today to go out and break some rules. What I'm telling you is that we have to value the sanctity of life and understand that every child is significant. But here's what happened. When Moses' mother couldn't take care of him anymore, it got to the 3-month place and she couldn't care for him anymore. She built this ark and put him in it, put him in the Nile River, and down he floated. And I have to think about this. How bad does it have to get to where putting your baby in a little basket and floating him down a crocodile-infested river sounds like a good idea? You know, we talk about how bad it is. We talk about how bad we got it and how bad times are. And I have to agree with Bishop Jakes on this. Man, you want to talk about rough times and tough times, go talk to your granny. Go talk to your great-grandmother. Go talk to some of them who lived through the Depression and who lived through the slavery years, who lived through these times. You think you got it bad. Man, you sitting up here with the iPhone. You got access to all of the world technology. You drove up in here in your own car. You put your own clothes on you this morning. You slept in a bed last night. You had something for breakfast. At least you ate yesterday, and you're fixing to eat today. Come on now. And you're talking about, oh, it's so rough. I think we learn something from our grandparents. I think that we don't really learn until we get, once again, to about 50 years old. And you start looking at your grandparents and saying, man, my grandpa was a bad man. My grandmama, she was a bad woman. I start thinking about it now, and I'm like, I wouldn't mess with my grandpa. For reasons I will not tell you. You got power, heat, power, air, all of these things. Man, my grandmother, I was like 13, 14 years old until she got indoor plumbing in her house. Because every time we'd go to her house up in Somerset, Kentucky, she had a little outhouse out by the house. And when you had to go do your business, you went out there. And I remember growing up, and I just thought that was normal. I didn't realize we was broke, that we was so poor. I just thought, I can't wait to go to Granny's, because when I do, I get to go to the bathroom outside in this little thing. I thought it was the coolest thing. But see, that's what good grandmothering and good mothers and good aunts is going to do for you. They'll help you not to see the poverty or the rough situation, but they help you to see that it's about family. It's about sticking together. It's about loving each other. Come on now. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And we got all this stuff now talking about, oh man, it's so rough. Man, our grandparents would look at us and smack us upside the head and say, you don't even know what rough is. You and your high school education, you and your college education, or you and your 8th grade education, talking about not even getting past 1st or 2nd grade and having to navigate through life. And we think we're the only generation that's got tough times and tough things we got to navigate through. Just tap your neighbor and say, it's time to show some honor to our women. Come on now. But here she was, Moses' mother. She chose to give birth. She elected to give birth. The midwives elected to assist in the transition. But when She couldn't cover it up anymore. She put him in the basket. And he's floating down the river, and Miriam is running down, watching the basket to see what's going to happen. Some of you feel like that you're just floating out of control right now through some crocodile-infested waters. But I want to tell you, there's some sisters. Aren't you just glad for some sisters who will be willing to be there with you? Might not be in the boat with you, but they walking the shores and they checking up on the brothers. I thank God for the sisters in my life who have been checking in and checking up on me. And then finally, the little ark just goes right in. Pharaoh's daughter just happened to be taking a bath in the Nile River. That's another question that comes to forefront in my mind. What would possess a person to decide to take a bath in a river that is infested with crocodiles and piranhas? You talk about some tough, tenacious people. It's like, come on, I wish a crocodile would come up in here. I'll take this spear and I'll jab that joker. You know, it's like many, like our grandparents and stuff, they learned what the limits of what they could tolerate was. They learned, you go past this point right here, I ain't responsible for you what happens next. We need to make up in our mind concerning the enemy. You mess with this house, and I can't tell you what's going to happen to you, but I can tell you ain't going to like what's going to happen to you. You might have walked up in here, but you're going to limp all the way out. And here she was, Pharaoh's daughter, looks at him, finds out, okay, this is a baby. I understand what's taking place. One of the Hebrew women put their baby into the river because she couldn't care for it and couldn't stand to see the baby die in front of her. So she had to let that baby go, and another woman picked the baby up. You might have let go. You might have been let go of by your biological mama. But you can see some other women in your life that have come by and that have picked you up. And there's a difference. I love what Jake says. He said there's a difference between a mother and a mentor. A mother will get you into the world, but a mentor will come alongside of you and do some things. And you got to have a mama and you got to have a mentor. Because look, Pharaoh's daughter could do things for Moses that his mama couldn't. Moses was trained. He was raised to be a deliverer. He couldn't be raised by a deliverer to a woman who knew nothing but slavery. Come on now. Some of you are upset right now because of your mama's situation. But where God wanted to take you, your mother couldn't take you there all the way. So he brought people into your life to train you, to help you, to get you. Come on now. It took. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, man, there were really 4 women that came together to help preserve and to help mold and shape Moses. Number 1, it was his mom. Once again, thank God for our moms. Yeah, thank God. But then there was the midwives. These are the women that come into your life that help you navigate transition. Then there was the sister who watched him as he floated. And then there was Pharaoh's daughter. But you realize over your life that what's missing from maybe your biological mother, God has put it in women all around you. Might have been your grandmother. It might have been your aunt. It might have been a sister in the Lord. But God's got a way of equipping you to fulfill your purpose and your destiny. Whether your mom was kind and kindness needed to be something that flowed through you, or your mama was very forward. Let me have some forward mamas. You didn't have to guess what was going on in her mind, but my Lord, when she let it rip, it ripped. I used to tell my mom, I'd say, Mom, I wish you would just whip me. I wish you would just beat me and get it over with. I cannot handle these 1 hour conversations where you're setting me down. There's a lot of times people say, you don't take the belt. Don't beat your child. And I agree, don't beat your child. For sure. But for me, I would have much rather, and I told her, I would much rather you take a belt and just beat me than to set me down and tell me that what I did was wrong and that there's consequences to my actions. But I thank God, and I'm thanking God right now that he's still raising some strong women up who can know how to set some young bucks down and say there's going to be consequences to those actions. You can't keep living like this. You can't keep doing this. Aren't you glad that you had some strong-willed women into your life that knew how to tell you like it is? You might not have liked it at the moment, but you look back on it. I remember when Paige and Parker were so little. Boom, boom. I don't know. Maybe that's a sign to proceed or not. I'm not for sure. and I can't even remember what happened, but we had we had grounded Parker for something, and it was I don't know. I'm sure we had a good reason, because we never did anything stupid as parents. We always did the right thing at the right time. We never overacted. Much like what you do with your children. And we're sitting here in the bedroom, and he comes up to us and to his mama, and he starts this language that I have never heard come out of him. He's just like, Mama, I just love you so much, and I just want to know if there's anything that I can do just to show you my appreciation. And he's going off, and I'm thinking, what alien abducted my son? Who is this boy? And it was just for a couple of hours. I mean, it was just being so consistent with all this stuff. But, Heather, she's so wise as a mother. She goes up to the family computer. We didn't all have individual computers like we have now. We had the family computer and all that. And she goes to the computer, and she checks the history. And the question in the history was, how to get ungrounded. And then me and her just start cracking up, because it was like, we're raising two little geniuses. We are so over our heads in this. We got to have Jesus. But something about a mother's intuition, and something, women, that you have that us men don't have,